an episode of a show on the History Channel called America Unearthed. And this is hosted by a man called Scott Wolter. He's a forensic geologist.
How fun.
My kind of guy. This was in 2012 when he did this show. And he was investigating these rocks because he's like, I want to know if these dare stones are fake or if they're real. So in the show, he goes and he examines these rocks. He examines the first one and he's like, this is quartzite stone. This stone, you can't chemically weather it. It has to weather naturally.
Okay.
Right? And the carvings are weathered. So they couldn't have been done when they were found. Because these stones have all been kept, even though they were deemed fake. They still are part of history, and they've been kept inside,
So they couldn't weather any further.
So, this original Dare stone, Eleanor Dare chronicles, she talked of the misery, attacks, there's murder, sickness, of what they had to go through. And then we'll post a picture of the map of where all these stones were found, and it goes in a trail.
Oh,
it
cool.
starts about 50 miles, like where this fort was supposed to be on the mainland, and that's where the original stone was found. And then a little ways down, they found like 11 more stones, and then further down they found a spot that had like 33 stones.
Oh, wow.
So it was like they were found in like a line, and it wasn't just like random; it were all near each other. So it's almost like they moved. They were here, and then they moved here, and she left. That's
story of what happened there,
right,
and moved on to the next place.
That's smart, though.
Yeah, but this quartzite, he examined the grooves microscopically with like a huge microscope of the quartzite rock, the grooves in the carving, and he found them. He said there's pyrite. He goes, what pyrite does when it gets exposed to the air is it starts to rust. And he sees the portions of this rock, part of them are rusty and part of them aren't, and they're weathered and the grooves are the same. But he said that could just show you that part of this rock was underwater, where part of it wasn't. So, because it weathered differently. He goes, and the carvings weathered the same as the rock weathered. So it wasn't just like, he goes, how would you fake that?
Yeah, because if the rock weathered, then you added it, it wouldn't have the same things.
And when he examined the other stones, he found them to be of different types of rocks. And he found that the rocks that were used were indigenous to the area. So he went and explored the banks of that river where the first rock was found. And this river, he's pulling up all these different quartzite. They're all quartzite rocks. He goes, she found this rock right there and carved it and left it. And then the next site, those rocks were all rocks that you found in the area, like naturally. He goes, like, who would, if they were faking it, they wouldn't really think to do that. They would probably, or they're real plans.
A lot of work.
A lot of work. Right. 40, there were 47, 48 of these stones total. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, they're going to fake carving all that stuff. I wouldn't.
And when he examined the rocks, there was an organic material found on the surface of the rocks. On the surface of the rocks and in the grooves, the same moss growing on the surface and in the grooves. Mud on the surface in the grooves. He's like, this is, like, unless they planned it out 50 years ahead of time.
Yeah.
He's like, how would they do that? He thinks that the stones are real. I kind of believe him. He's very convincing.
He's a scientist of
But the distance these were found was 300 miles.
Like,
from the first one to the last one. And it was, like, through North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. And the last ones were found, I think, in Georgia.
Wow.
And 300 miles from the first one. So, I mean, that's a lot. Like,
they moved a bunch.
Why would they think to do that, though, if they're faking it? But he said that's how you tell the story. And the map with the spot, and it was right near the spot. So, he said there's no evidence that they're fake. He goes, you can't find any evidence that somebody carved these in this century, He believed that the Roanoke colony split in two groups. One going south to Croatoan Island, and then the other one going west to where the fort was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that when he left, there was some... I wrote it down. One of the things I read said that when White made a remark, he stated before he left the colony, they were preparing to move 50 miles into the mainland. And this was found in his journals. And
so
they're like,
he had even thought
right.
that was something like that.
And they're like, well, why would he cover up, if he planned to do a fort there, why would he cover it up? And a lot of it was, if the map went into the hands of the Spanish, they wouldn't want to know where to have them look for it. That's what they did. They looked for English to kill. They wanted to...
Gotcha.
Right. So he's trying to save, like, them. So
if they went there for that, they would not be able to find them.
Right. So, Sir Walter Raleigh, who is Fort Raleigh on Roanoke, is named from this man. He financed the colony. His goal was he wanted land and property. He was a younger son. He wanted land. He wanted a property. So that's why he was friendly with Queen Elizabeth, who sent him here. He was a very trusted advisor of hers. He wanted to set up a military base. He wanted silver, gold, copper, all that stuff. And one of the things, like when you go to, and like they said, another thing they wanted to try was if there was any kind of medicinal plants that they could harvest here to send back to England.
Mm-hmm.
And one plant that you can find on Roanoke Island, sassafras. And another... Sassafras. And you find that where the other fort was as loaded with sassafras. Even still to this day, if you go to the historical site where this original fort is on Roanoke Island, there's sassafras growing all around it.
Crazy.
And sassafras is used as a flavoring, commonly in root beer.
Yeah.
But another thing, it was used to treat syphilis. And it was rumored that Queen Elizabeth had syphilis, as she caught from her father.
Ew.
Just from DNA. Like,
I thought you meant like her father.
No, because
it was lead like that, Margaret.
It was rumored that King Henry had syphilis, and it's probably because he was kind of mad towards the end, and he probably did have it. He had lots of sex with people.
Ugh.
And if he gave it to his wife who had a baby, the baby could have it too. So, I mean, there was no proof that she had it, but it was rumored that she had syphilis, and that's why she wanted him to go and find this miracle. Because if Columbus brought it from the New World, the cure is probably in the New World. So that's what they use sassafras root for, is to treat people with syphilis.
Does it really work?
I have no idea. Oh. Probably not.
It tastes good. Root beer's good, so I'm happy about that. That they found it.
Even today you can find sassafras on Roanoke.
And I can go and make myself some sassafras soda.
Yeah.
Sody.
So they don't know what happened, but they kind of do.
Yeah, I feel
where's
like
all the supernatural speculation come in? Because there's a lot of people that think it's like really eerie, ghost stories.
It's the whole Croatoan thing carved into the thing.
Fictional stuff,
right?
Because they don't have an answer.
They don't know.
Story
yeah, it's like
which was the worst season ever.
I never watched that.
It was awful. It was terrible. It was awful. I think it has to do with the fact that
it's like a ghost town. And
nothing was
there
left.
was nothing there. And
there was
I think
no
it was just
evidence.
and they were very superstitious back then too, like the witches.
And they didn't look too hard, really, to be honest.
They
turned
really
around left.
Yeah.
If they would maybe traveled inward, they would have found someone.
I don't think John White was the best leader.
You think?
Yeah. This is like, you're going to be the governor. Okay. Like, he was an artist. He wasn't
right.
But he'd been there, so that's why they chose him to be the new governor because probably no one else wanted it.
And then they wanted to get rid of him when he did stupid shit.
Yeah, and like, you can go.
I really think that they took off because they were like, we can't stay here. We have nothing.
I really think that's probably what happened, is they got taken in by friendly people, and they just were enveloped into the tribe.
Sense.
And then after a few generations, you couldn't tell.
You couldn't tell anymore. Yeah, because after,
maybe the remnants, the gray eyes is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
They said that one tribe on that island has gray eyes, which
that's interesting.
Is another sign
because you don't see that often.
No,
brown usually overtakes everything. So except for when it comes to my child.
And I have green eyes, and my husband has brown eyes. All my kids have brown eyes.
Yeah, and then I got Griffin, whose two parents are brown eyes, has blue eyes. Margaret's got green eyes.
Mine are green.
You never know how it's going to work.
No, what do you think, Renee?
Yeah, I think that sounds like probably what happened, rather than something creepy and supernatural.
Gosh, you ruined all the fun, Margaret.
Jeez. Gotta be all scientific.
Logical.
Logical. Makes sense. I liked it when it was, I didn't know what happened and everything was scary.
Yeah. Some virus came and made them turn on each other. But there's no bodies.
It was the aliens.
Yeah.
Aliens came down and took the whole house and everything. Took them up.
They went to Oz.
They went to Oz.
That's what happened. A tornado, a huge hurricane came and hit the coast, and it twirled their little houses right up into the sky, and they ended up in Oz. That's where the wizard came from.
He was part of
The Roanoke colony.
Well, I did not know anything about the Roanoke thing other than the supernatural, like you said, the supernatural stuff.
It's like a ghost town. It was really mysterious.
Yeah.
All the people were just randomly gone.
But once you start to hear about it, it's like, well, it makes sense that they moved.
Right.
And they
There's nothing there.
They were stupid and didn't try finding them.
Yeah, they couldn't grow anything because of dirt.
Because you're on the sand, yeah. I mean, they probably figured that out.
Plus, they had a history of murder, people there before murdering the natives,
Yeah.
and they were like, "We don't want you here. You better go."
Yeah.
If
Okay.
they're on an island, then they probably had boats. So 50 miles down the river is not that big of a deal.
And I think that's probably what
And they said the boats were gone. So they
boats
probably
were gone.
took the houses apart, loaded them into the boats, put it down there, took them out and built new stuff, which would make perfect sense.
And some of them probably at that point were dead from starvation or illness or
Scurvy,
war.
syphilis.
After one winter, they're like, "Screw this, we are out."
Yeah, I wouldn't stay.
And it was rough living that area was rough because they got pounded by the elements. Like they had hurricanes and wind and rain, and I'm sure the winter probably wasn't as cold as it is like up here, but it probably was terrible.
But on the water.
On the water.
Yeah, I bet it was awful.
No, thank you.
Definitely, military men decided where the
Well, for them it made sense because you could keep an eye, but that's not for living.
Farming.
I don't think any of them ever. I mean, that one group lived through the winter and then left.
Yeah, they're like, we out.
We're out.
Peace.
This sucks.
First boat that comes, we're out. Which I don't blame them. I
don't either. But the problem is England at the time, it would be considered desertion. They probably got hung when they got back.
Oh, true. They may have.
But they're probably like, it's better than where we are now.
Yeah. So now we know about Roanoke.
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
That was interesting. Very appropriate for the time of year.
Yeah. Worked for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So if you liked this episode, you should follow us on all the platforms that are out there because we're on everything. And you should follow us on Facebook. And we're on TikToks. And we're on the Instagram. And we're on YouTube at The Cousins Weird. And if you have stories or ideas to share with us, reach out to us at
thecousinsweird@gmail.com.
Oh, and then you can click on our link tree in the description because you get to our website. You can buy our merch and you can support our podcast. You can do a $5 monthly support and you get extra exclusive stuff and free things. Or you can do a one-time buy us a beer.
Or coffee.
Or coffee. You know, whatever.
Today's a coffee day.
Today's definitely a coffee day. I sound like I had too much. this is not from drinking, I promise.
It's from us being cackling like idiots all weekend. Pretty much.
So we hope you have a great week.
Thanks for joining us, Mom and Renee.
Yes, thank you for
You're welcome.
sitting here.
Sitting there and listening and...
I never liked history in school, but
It's interesting.
it is interesting.
It's interesting. It's different when somebody's telling you. It's not.
Yeah.
Like you have. You're not going to be tested later. It's
No.
more fun.
We will be quizzing you on the way home.
I don't have much of a brain anymore.
All right, friends. We'll see you later.
Stay freaky, friends.
Bye.